'cause you won't be on top of the world so long. In constant competition. This ain't about
All right.
no particular.
As your intro song, it's Friday, and you know what that means. Another Captain of Madden show, but as a musical note, we're introing here with a song called "Losers" by the Bell Brigade. Nice little song that I picked out for this episode about athletes, supreme athletes, Hall of Fame athletes who never won a championship in their respective sport, as far as a league championship. Mike Madden here on my end, the captain, Michael Corby, on his end. I'm bringing him in now. Captain, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Stop yelling at me. See,
Okay.
see, this is why we differ from most podcasts. Because other podcasts, they'll do like best players who won a championship.
Yeah.
No.
No.
We're going to talk about the guys that we're like, fuck those guys that won championships. We're going to talk about guys that didn't win championships.
That's right. We're
celebrating the losers.
We're celebrating the losers. These are the and a lot of these guys actually, like when going through the research and looking at notes, a lot of these guys, if you were to say, hey, name one of your favorite players in the last 30 years or 40 years, and you name the sport, a lot of these names are going to come up. Yeah, we could spend the whole day talking about Tom Brady. We don't want to do that. We obviously would rather find the guys of character that were leaders in their industry, but not necessarily trophy holders. I like that. I like the way that sounds. Trophy holders.
We're going to talk about players who didn't cheat good enough to win championships, like Tom Brady and New England Patriots.
That's an excellent way to put this. To any of our listeners who listened to our last episode about band breakups from last week, and said to themselves, "Hey guys, why didn't you tell us what this episode was?" That's on me. And actually, it was. I'm going to share half of the responsibility, just like I, share half of the responsibility of coming up with concepts for the show with the captain, because damn it, we just got wrapped up of waxing nostalgic about rock bands that broke up or that we'd like to see get back together after their breakup. And then Captain went on his rant about no costumes in bands and anonymity. So we apologize for not preparing you. I'm sure it's been a long week where everybody's kind of been like, this is a mystery episode. We don't know what the guys are going to talk about. But yeah, we're here. We're talking about the no title athletes that have graced the major sports in America. I don't know. Like, is it harder? Like you follow English soccer and to a certain extent European soccer, correct?
Oh yeah.
Is it hard?
It's harder to find. It is kind of more difficult to find. Because you know what it is. It's the toughest part is, like, some people will consider, like, if your club wins an FA championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe you never won, Champions League, but your team won the league.
Yeah. Right.
They won some sort of. There's so many different types of cups and different things in European soccer that, yeah, like, so it's harder that, like, well, would you not, just because you or the club that you play never won champions, like, they still consider you a winner if you know.
Yeah, if you won La Liga or you
won some sort of,
yeah,
or or maybe you never won a club championship, but you played for a country and they won
the World Cup. Yeah, right.
Or won Euros. Like, so there's many different ways that soccer players could be considered, kind of like a champion in a way. It would be almost like if here in the U.S., like, we took, hey, they won the pennant.
Yes.
So they're winners.
Yeah.
Where,
right.
That's nice that you won the pennant and that's great, but you didn't win, you didn't win the World Series, so
Yes. Yes.
you're not considered a champion.
You're not the world champion. That's true.
You
That is
did-
very true.
You were not, you didn't win the play-in game at 8th seed in the NBA. So,
Yeah.
they don't consider you, they don't consider that being a real winner, even though they'll hang a banner.
Oh, they'll hang a banner for that. Yeah, they will. And that little the muckety-muck tournament that they do at the beginning of the season, whatever whatever the NBA likes to call that, the debutante ball or whatever bullshit they do, they'll hang a banner for that and they'll celebrate that like it's a real championship. We here in the Captain and Madden universe, we do not consider that that way. So
Much like the old Inside the Actor Studio, there were some people that James Lipton would interview and be like, he won an Oscar for this, and then towards the end it was like, he won a Blockbuster Video Award for Best Kiss or whatever. It was like, you knew they were kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel.
4-time Cable Ace Award winner,
The Ace Awards.
Dr. Demento.
You won the MTV Award for Best Explosion.
Right. That's good. So let's get started. Let's talk football. It's going to be the biggest. This is the biggest pile of I guess, like renowned athletes that, for one reason or another, have not never reached the pinnacle. And the other thing that I wanted to just sort of like throw out there is at no point in my notes, I don't know about you, Cap, but in no point in my notes do I have any, maybe aside from maybe one or two, I don't have any current players. I'm going more of that career is wrapped up and they have no chance of getting trophied up.
I'm not going to label you a loser until you retire.
That's right, exactly. So for the sport of football, I think maybe the gold standard for this categorization is Dan Marino.
Dan, die. Laces out.
Went to one Super Bowl in his rookie year.
Second year.
Yeah, second year.
Rookie or second year?
Second year.
And they got spanked by the 49ers.
Accolades, got, for a long time held a lot of these, passing stats and a lot of records, and certainly, there's a case to be made for, one of the best of that 80s, early 90s generation of quarterbacks. An incredible guy to watch on the field, although as a Jet fans, both of us being Jet fans, really hated him, but give it up for Dan Marino as far as like being an exciting player. And Miami was relevant for pretty much his whole time there, but never finished the story per se. So it was when you had made the suggestion, like, hey, this should be the topic, that was the first person that comes to my mind. And I think that's, if you poll a lot of sports fans that grew up in our generation, I think they would resoundingly applaud that Dan Marino, especially in the sport of football, that Dan Marino is in this category, top of the list.
Well, there's two things that Marino always gets talked about. One, if he played in today's game, he would throw for like 6,000 yards a season because he was throwing for 4 or 5, close to 5.
Yeah.
Back when, the pass interference rules and what you could, you were able to touch the receiver, after 5 yards, that type of stuff. And he put up ridiculous numbers back in those time, the 80s or whatever. And, there are discussions, when you really want to break that, if you want to get into the nitty gritty of like, did the Dolphins stay with Don Shula for too long? Should they have gotten rid of, Marino never really embraced having a running game. And there were times where their opportunities were there to either draft a good running back or, go out and sign a good running back. And he was more interested in, his number. There was a lot of people that felt that he was more interested in his passing yards and not improving, the defense.
Mhm.
So he went to the playoffs a lot, but you know, would lose in the first or second round.
True.
Then, when Jimmy Johnson was hired, when they finally did get rid of Don Shula, Johnson had come from Dallas where he just, he pretty much built, a team that should have been a dynasty for longer than it was. But, and him and, Marino and Jimmy Johnson kind of butted heads
Yeah,
because he was
clash.
just like, hey, man, you dropping back past him 50 times is not going to help us win. We gotta install a running game. We gotta,
Spread it out. Yeah.
we gotta spend some money on the defense. We gotta do that and this and that. And I hate this. I'm not gonna say sadly he never went to back another Super Bowl because I am a Jet fan and I don't if he could have. I'm not all that broken up that he never won, but in the realm of this, sadly, I mean he had two Hall of Fame coaches
Mm-hmm. Right.
and never, unfortunately never got there, never won. Because it takes more, football, it does take more than one guy to, even though nowadays, everyone will tell you, oh, if you get the franchise quarterback,
Yeah.
that's it. You
Yeah.
could win a Super Bowl. You got to have a little bit more than that.
Something's got to be
And,
happening on the other side of the ball, or within your offense. You need to utilize your weapons. That's that's funny.
because
that you brought that up.
it wasn't like there was ever those like, oh, they played this team and the call went, oh, he got completely screwed or blah blah blah. He just, there was a number of years where he faced Buffalo, and Buffalo was just a better all
Better
around team.
organization. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he just faced, or they were upset a couple of times. I remember, I think, 85. They played New England. They were heavily favored, and New England just they figure, okay, all we have to do is stop the pass because we don't have to worry about the run, and we can score on them. And but again, probably. Maybe top 5 when you're talking about best quarterbacks that ever play the game. He's easily in the top 5, probably maybe top 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, just never got the chance to get a ring.
Regular season. Is like from those Dolphins teams, is there anybody else that made the Hall of Fame other than Marino? Like Clayton and Duper aren't Hall of Fame guys.
No, unless there's I believe
Reggie Roby?
there might have been was Stevenson, like an offensive lineman. I think that was kind of like was there a little bit before he was like.
Yeah, well,
I think that might have been the only one. They had a long time offensive lineman that retired. I want to say in the late 80s. I think went to the Hall of Fame
early enough.
but he was kind of there before.
Yeah, he was a legacy guy. Right.
Before Marino even got there. Yeah.
So he would have been.
But no, he never had a Hall of Fame running back. He never had a Hall of Fame tight end or wide receiver. And I don't think there was anybody on that defense that ever made it to the Hall of Fame.
Very interesting. That's worth researching, folks at home. If you're listening, just get on your Google machine and research Miami Dolphins Hall of Famers and the years that they were there. Jim Kelly's another guy who the bridesmaid himself, Jim Kelly, always on the doorstep. 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Had a team. Like there's no doubt about it. Like here's the opposite of Marino, where you've got first ballot Hall of Famers and young players that were like hungry in that league, that were just like they were primed, and they just kept getting turned away at the door and shut down. And I think in the long run I think there were a lot of people that soured on Jim Kelly, like, hey, he's a choke artist more than anything. Especially you look at the margin of error when it comes to a couple of those Super Bowls. But I mean, he was still, for his time, he was still, pretty great and pretty smart, passer in the league on a very strong Bills team. Thoughts?
I actually kind of had that Buffalo team like kind of lumped together because you had
Yeah,
Jim Kelly,
yeah.
you had Bruce Smith,
Bruce Smith, yeah.
you had Thurman Thomas.
Mhm.
I mean, those I would say like 6 years. I mean, I know they went to 4 consecutive Super Bowls, but they were good a year or two before that, and they were still good, I think, a year or two after. I mean, they were sending at least 7, 8 guys to the Pro Bowl every year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't like Marino's situation where it was like it was Marino and that was pretty much it. Jim Kelly had borderline, a Pro Bowl. He had a Pro Bowl running back. He had Andre Reed.
Andre
and
Reed
James
is another
Lofton
guy that never did
that
anything.
would go to a Pro
Yeah.
Bowl or that defense had some. I mean, Bruce Smith is in the Hall of Fame, but I mean, Cornelius Bennett,
Yeah.
Shane Conlon. I mean, they were guys. I mean, they had players on both sides of the ball. I hate to Scott Norwood. You get a better. That dude makes a field goal. They should.
Yeah,
beat,
they won
should
that
beat
Super
the
Bowl.
Giants.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, the Redskin game was a little bit out of hand. The Dallas game was not a game. But that was I think the Giants game was they should have won that.
That was their destiny. They choked on their destiny for sure. Yeah. And again, I think like more or less like after Kelly's career, people went back and said like, well, I think we gave him a bum rap for blowing the Super Bowls because we put a lot of emphasis on the quarterback. But also like, the Bills had had ramped up before they made their run for the Super Bowl. Like, so I guess like in the 88 and 89 seasons, like they were showing the signs, but when they turned the corner, for a good like 5-year period, like they were as unstoppable as anybody else in the league, and you had to play to their level. Eventually that's what sparked New England to get their act together in the AFC East and start to challenge. And, and Denver had their resurgence in the 90s to be that sort of, that gold standard team. So, and I think, again, like more after his career, I think people lightened up on old Jim Kelly. But really, like, when it all boils down to it, I think overall, like he is he's a Hall of Famer. Like there's no doubt about it. But yeah, just on the doorstep, on the precipice of making history as a multiple time Super Bowl winner, and just never crossed the finish line.
Never even won in the USFL.
It's true.
I believe he played for the Houston Rough Riders.
Oh, very good pull. Other names that I had, Randy Moss had a very long career, and Randy Moss played for some high caliber quarterbacks and with some really great offenses. Just never. And again, I think what you said about Marino before, about being more of a like a long-term stat compiler more than anything, I think Randy Moss kind of falls in that category as a guy that that when you look back, it's like, yeah, he had a nice, great career, and he was utilized extremely well during the regular season, but he never made that connection to stay in a town long enough to be a Super Bowl winner. So
yeah, I mean he was in a good situation in Minnesota, whined a little bit, and then got traded to Oakland where he was a complete ass.
yeah.
Which eventually led him to New England, where he kind of straightened his shit out for a couple of years. I mean, he really didn't have a choice if you're gonna play for Belichick. And
He made a Super Bowl with New
Yeah, they
England.
lost to the Giants.
They lost it. Yeah, that was the Giant season. Yeah, yeah.
But he wasn't. I don't think he made it to the second time they lost. I don't. He wasn't on the team anymore.
No, I think he was here. Was he there that year that Brady went down in like week 3 or 4, and it was the Matt Castle season?
I believe he was.
Moss,
yes.
yeah. So Moss was there then, but yeah, like you're on a down season for the dominant team of that decade. So sorry, Randy. But still, like when you go back and you do the time honored thing, if you look at the back of somebody's baseball card or the back of their football card in this stance, and you look at all of the stats, you're like, yeah, he's undeniably one of the greatest of all time that ever played. And if you were lucky enough to see him while he was playing, you would probably say, especially at his height, you would probably say like, this he's a can't miss. Like he's going to win multiple championships. He's going to be a league MVP and this, that, and the other thing. And poor circumstances, poor timing, just didn't make it when he was really in. I think like when he was in Minnesota was probably his best opportunity, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, you would think the 18. You play on a 16-0 team, and then you're a 14. You're a 14-point favorite above the Giants, and you lose. I mean, that's.
I'll talk to Jim Kelly after that game. We almost did it, but holy shit, we had to run into the New York Football Giants. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, and also shout out Randy Moss. Recovering from cancer, and hopefully, things are on the recovery side for him on that accord, as they were for Jim Kelly too. So, a former Jet is on my list. Are you ready? Can you think of a great former Jet that unfortunately had a couple of chances to potentially get to a Super Bowl and didn't do it?
The only person whose jersey that I still have of the Jets, Curtis Martin.
So Curtis Martin might have made that list for me. Was he on your list, Curtis Martin?
No.
Okay. LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah, he had a season with Jets.
With the Jets, yeah. And they made a AFC championship. And he played prior to that on a pretty stout and prolific San Diego Chargers team with Phillip Rivers, who's another guy that you could probably say, although he didn't get noted here, is you eyeball the stats and you're like, how did this guy not like win a league championship? But LaDainian Tomlinson's the guy I'm talking about, because I think for a good 4-year stretch, there was no better running back. Whether it was, you're just talking about like yards gained and dynamic play, off the snap and be able to, get yards after the carry and find seams. But he was a great pass catcher out of the backfield. Could score from any drawn up play, and they fed him the ball like it was going out of style. And when you look at like what the modern running back and it's to a certain extent it's a diminished role because defenses strategize for a guy like LaDainian Tomlinson that was going to be able to like kill you from anywhere. I think like he set the tempo for late 2000s and early 2010s, the shift to back to a more aerial game, because all of these defenses were like, well, we can't be giving up all of these rushing yards to these dynamic running backs anymore. We got to figure out a way to shut the running back down and take the emphasis off there. So with that being said, again, a big, strong front end of his career in the 2000s on some of those really balanced Chargers teams. Your thoughts?
Well, he he was also, I mean, as good as he was rushing, he was phenomenal at catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Those Charger teams. I mean, you had Antonio Gates. Rivers was in his prime. They were, kind of a throwback to the Dan Fouts era Chargers, where what did they call him, like Air Coryell?
Air Coryell. Yeah.
But it was one of those like, well, if you're going to line up to try to stop the run, then they're going to beat you with the pass, and then if you try to defend the pass, well, we're just going to hit LT coming out of the backfield, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but there were a lot of times where they were inside the 5 that he'd do the HB toss. He would throw and hit Gates or somebody, because everyone would just line up trying to stop him, and they would do the toss, and then it was just like he may not have had a cannon of an arm, but he could hit somebody from 5 yards out.
Yeah.
So he was, for I would say a good 4, maybe 5 years, you could probably arguably say like maybe the best player in football,
Yeah.
non-quarterback. So,
I would even include quarterbacks. Like there was something about him that was he was magnetic. He was, you had people that were like, again, and how the Jets landed him is beyond me. But it was, the rest of.
He was kind of done. He was cooked. By
a little
Jets.
beat up, but it was exciting that the Jets got him.
He was still good enough that compared to a few years later when they got guy from Pittsburgh who was completely just
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least Tomlinson was still good out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah.
Like he wasn't horrible. Like they had the two-headed, him and Sean Green. But
Yep.
you're going to talk about running backs though that never won a Super Bowl.
Please.
There's a pretty big name just sitting out there that we have to talk about.
Of course,
Barry Sanders.
Of course we do. Yes, Barry Sanders.
I mean, that dude was like a living video game.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ankle breaking or whatever you want to call it, knee break, him, his change of direction, his
power.
Yeah. I mean, it was ridiculous. It's a damn shame that it was wasted in Detroit and that they went to the playoffs a couple of years.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
They never put that big enough of a team around to where, they ever had a legit. I mean, they would make it as a wild card, and you knew that was about it. Like, you knew they weren't getting past the first round.
Like he's on the Mount Rushmore of running backs that played in the time that I've seen football. Like, it's, and even like going back and like, if you do research and you're like, well, all right, I can read these stats and it's like, all right, well, it was a different game then. But then you turn on a game where he had, he had control of it. And maybe the couple seasons where they had like a little bit competent, line that was blocking for him. And you could just see him just like again, like a jackrabbit, just like you can't catch him. Like you can't touch him. And if you do think you're going to touch him, good luck taking him down because he was just a bull.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. Maybe it's a testament to him where he was like, listen, like I'm going to be in a wheelchair if I don't get out of this game, with my body intact. So it's better that he didn't, beat the drum and stay on longer or demand to get traded somewhere else and kind of rob the Detroit fan base of seeing him, potentially like go somewhere and do a one-off season and win a Super Bowl for the Broncos or for, Carolina, whoever, like in the early part of the 2000s where he could have probably, held out and done something like that. And he was just like, no, I've done everything that I need to do in the sport, and I'm happy to have my time here and keep my legacy intact by not overstaying my welcome.
Definitely hey, I'd rather leave a couple of years earlier than a couple of years too late.
Too late, right? Yeah, yeah. If there wasn't a Walter Payton, that Man of the Year award would be the Barry Sanders Man of the Year award in the NFL. But there was a Walter Payton, and yes, Walter Payton did win a Super Bowl. But yeah, like Barry Sanders is absolutely on the list of people. I thought you were going to mention another running back that we probably shouldn't talk that long about, that never won a Super Bowl, but made a lot of headlines.
I would love to talk about that running back.
Thank you for picking that up. Yes, O.J. Simpson never won the Super Bowl, and probably for good reason. O.J. Simpson. So, do you have anybody else in your list of footballers, NFL category?
Well, just mention I think you should mention Tony Gonzalez, Hall of Fame
For sure.
tight end,
Yeah.
and way before our time, but a name that's pretty well known football wise. Dick Butkus.
Dick Butkus. Yeah.
There's another one that I'm not sure. He could be in two sports, and I don't know which one to mention him in.
Just what were you talking about? Bono's.
Yeah. Does he have his own category, or
He's unique. Yeah, he's a snowflake. Bo.
never won one with the Raiders, never won anything in Kansas City, but probably
Tore that knee up with the Raiders, though. Like shit, if he had not torn that knee up.
he is single-handedly the greatest athlete that I ever saw.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
Oof.
you could if he doesn't hurt his hip, the Raiders
Was it the
playoff
hip?
game,
Yeah. Okay.
the hip came out of the socket or whatever. He could have been a Hall of Fame running back. He could have been a Hall of Fame outfielder.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and his just the highlights, of what he did for the brief amount of time that he was with the Raiders. Him. I don't know if it was the first handoff, or the first game where he takes it for 80 yards or whatever,
And
then
ran into the
runs into
tunnel.
The tunnel. Him knocking over Brian Bosworth.
Killed him. Yeah.
But then you looked at all the stuff he did on a base, like the guy had a cannon for an arm.
Cannon for an arm. He had a
And-
sweet swing, and he could also his leaping ability was like,
Yeah.
if he concentrated, dude probably could have played small forward in the NBA or shooting guard in the NBA, and give a lot of guys run for their money. Like of our generation, there are athletes now that are out there that you kind of say to yourself, yeah, they could probably play two sports and they could probably be pretty good at it, but nobody it's like there were the Jim Browns and the Jim Thorpes of bygone eras that were able to do it, but
Well, his contemporary would be Deion Sanders because they played not that.
I know. Yeah.
And Deion was a Hall of Fame football player, but I don't think Deion was a
No,
Hall of
he
Fame baseball
probably
player.
hit like 230 tops. Not even 230.
I think he hit a little bit more than that.
He could
But
run.
what I'm saying,
Yeah.
Brian Jordan was not a Hall of Famer in either one of the sports.
Yeah.
But you can honestly sit there and say, if Bo concentrated on, or if he never would have got hurt and he just would have kept playing two sports for another 5 or 6 years,
Oh yeah.
they would have put him in both Hall of Fames, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. No, excellent to bring up Bo, because Bo that should lead us from football right into baseball. I think it only makes sense.
It only makes.
It only-
Bo knows hockey though.
Bo knows hockey. Bo does know hockey. Oh, Bo knows tennis. Bo don't know tennis. Bo don't know diddly. Anyway, we could have a whole episode just talking about Bo Jackson shit, and I think let's keep that in mind for future episodes. But let's jump to baseball. National pastime, probably something that we know infinitely more about, and can definitely get in the weeds when it comes to some of these players from our generation that were untouchable, but never held trophies aloft. Who's the first guy when you think of when it is baseball topic and we're talking non-trophy athletes?
Well, the first that always comes to anybody's mind when you think of baseball players who never won a World Series was Ernie Banks.
Okay.
Hall of Famer for the Chicago Cubs. He was a member of the 500 home run club. Was famous for the Let's Play 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the sun shining, blah, blah, blah. Let's play 2 today. Just unfortunately, he played his entire career for the Cubs. And
Mr. Cub.
he was Mr. Cub. Some would say Mr. Chicago. He was probably the, again, just, power. From what I understand, never having seen him play since he was well out of the game before I started watching, but by every measure, he was a great all around baseball player. Just, the Cubs were awful during his career.
Yeah. Yeah.
And never, back in the day where it was you had to win the pennant to get to the World Series, they never won a pennant.
Yeah.
And
That's
poor guy played his whole career, and
it's Billy Goat Curse.
I think it was more of they found one Hall of Fame player and didn't surround him with anybody.
Yeah, they were like, all right, we're stopping now.
You want to blame me, Billy Goat? Go ahead. But
No more trades.
I blame the GM. And if I was in Chicago and they had sports talk radio back then, I would have called Chicago and been like,
Yeah.
don't blame it on a goat. Blame it on the GM.
If 670 the score was around, if you were around in the 50s and 60s and 670 the score was available, you probably would have a call-in show.
I'm calling Harry Carey on a post game when he's
not
in the bed.
he's not taking your calls. Sorry.
Oh, he's
And he was calling the Cardinals in those days. He wasn't Cubs until the 80s. But let's not squabble
totally
about that.
Totally ruined it.
I've ruined your bit. I
didn't even get a chance to do my Harry Carey impression. You just
it's Will Ferrell's Harry Carey impression, but I do the same one.
hey.
Hi.
Who
By
do
the
you-
way, the day that Ernie Banks passed away, when I did read the news, I did cry because I was like, man, never got to see him play, and like everybody that like talked about him, like on social media and in papers, like that day was like, this is baseball lost an ambassador today, like, and a guy that was like bigger than the game personality wise, but also just stood above it as a shining example of of the right kind of ball player. So hats off to Ernie, Mr. Cub.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Who do you when you think baseball and not winning, who comes to your mind?
Barry Bonds never won he could have as many MVP trophies and home run titles and walk titles.
Hey.
Never won a championship.
Hey, Sid Bream is a speedster, and he threw a 4-bouncer from shallow right field. I mean, I don't know what you were expecting by not you're only 125 feet away from the plate. You think you're catching Sid Bream on a throw?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not happening. So, yeah.
Maybe that's why he was known more for the bat after a while than and concentrated on that. Well, and he's a baseball scumbag too.
He made a World Series, but they lost to the Angels, right? Early 2000s. 2002 or 2003.
2003.
No,
2002 was the Yanks.
No, 2001 was Yanks Diamondbacks, and then they lost to the Angels, and then 2003 the Yankees lost to Marlins. I think that 2002 year was the Giants and Angels in the World Series, and they lost. They lost in 6.
You may be right. Yeah, but still,
I mean, he made one. He didn't win one, and where you say I cried the day that Ernie Banks died, I did not. I'm not going to cry that Barry Bonds never. Scumbag.
Absolutely not. Baseball scumbag. But still, if you're going to say like important ball players and the guys that have a little bit of an infamy, but still a notoriety when it comes to all-time stat compilers and whatnot. I mean, you have to mention Barry, and I just did, and the less said, the better. So Bonds is in the conversation. Bonds is out of the conversation. Enough said.
The guy that we should talk about from that era, that it's a shame that he never won a World Series, would be Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, I know.
Those Seattle teams were stacked.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that the finances or whatever
Boy.
of baseball at the time, I mean, A-Rod, Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson, that should have been a dynasty.
They should have been there.
I mean,
They all
you
should have been
had-
there for 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, if not. And sadly, I mean, his trade or whatever to Cincinnati, he was never the same ball player. He just constantly,
Hurt.
the funny thing
Yeah.
was, he's not going to play on the turf anymore. He's going to play on natural grass. And he was hurt way more
He
than
was
he
more,
was
yeah.
playing.
But that
And
was,
just
I think that
never-
was the case of like a guy that got hurt once, got hurt pretty severely, like, and then it was like you could never get back to a full season of health or a full season, even if it was a full season of health, something in the game diminished, and still, could sell out a park.
It also sucks that you don't have, Edgar Martinez and Jay Buhner
Right.
and hitting behind you. Those Cincinnati teams didn't really have a stacked lineup,
No.
which meant you could kind of pitch around them a little bit.
Right.
But still, I mean, remember that he hit up 600 home runs.
Yeah.
I mean, a surefire Hall of Famer. Just unfortunately, didn't. Again, it's just as much it is about Junior. It is a shame that like that Seattle teams never. I mean, they had to beat the Yankees in '95, the fuckers. But
Yeah.
that should have been. That should be a team that people talk about. Like the Cincinnati Red Machine of the '70s and stuff. But unfortunately, baseball and their screwed up finances, Seattle couldn't afford all those guys. Nowadays, who knows? Maybe they would have had different ownership. They would have had their own cable,
Yeah. Pulled.
deal or whatever it is. Maybe they could afford to have at least 3 of them, or maybe they let Randy Johnson but they keep A-Rod and Ken Griffey Jr. together, whatever it is. But yeah, Junior, unfortunately, I would arguably say maybe the best baseball player during my.
Yeah,
that
no,
I've
he's. You don't have to. I don't. If you're trying to argue with me, I'm not going to argue back because I agree wholeheartedly.
At least I would say the most exciting ball player.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, never made the playoffs a couple of times, but never made it to the big game. So
That's true. That's a good point. Another guy that made the playoffs a few times and never got the trophy. Early in his career, went to the World Series, but this is Tony Gwynn.
yeah,
And this was even before, like, people knew that Tony Gwynn in his first, because they made it in '84, and he came up in '82 or early '83. They knew right away that like Tony Gwynn was like an unbelievable hitter, but you'd sort of like, all right, well, he's this unbelievable hitter. League's going to figure him out. Those guys don't sustain themselves. Brother sustained himself for 20 years, and was a franchise player for the Padres, ups and downs, like, good times, bad times, all points in between. Did he make the Padres go to the World Series against the Yanks?
yes.
So that was
the they got swept.
Mhm.
That was the Tino grand slam in the first game, and that was Langston. They brought in Mark Langston. It should have been a strike 3. The ump didn't call it, and then the next pitch, he hits a grand slam, and then I think at that point it was pretty much like whatever. There really wasn't any more. If they would have won that game, maybe they could have had some momentum, but the Yankees just kind of rolled them and swept them. But yeah, he made 2 World Series you know what? Did did the Tigers sweep the Padres in '84? Could it possibly that Tony Gwynn made it to 2 World Series
and only
never
played
even won a game?
8 total games.
Never even won.
That's
a game.
no. I think
I wish we had a stat guy that we could.
we should throw it to our stock. No, it was 5 games. They lost to the Padres. The Padres lost to the Tigers in 5 games in
Okay.
in '84.
Sorry, so at least he got to win one game.
98, where they were swept by the Yankees in '98.
Yep.
But I mean, listen, Tony Gwynn had his towards the end of his career, he had his detractors, but his detractors were basically like, well, he can't really get around in the outfield anymore, and he's looking a little out of shape. And I think I was one of his detractors. I was like, hey, Fat Tony Gwynn. Meanwhile, Fat Tony Gwynn's showing up at Shea Stadium and going like 3 for 4 and driving in like 2 runs against the Mets, and he would do that like on a nightly basis and be just an incredible eye, an incredibly patient and smart like hitter that it's unique for that time frame, and you don't see that anymore. You really don't see that. You could count on your hand the amount of people that are year to year 320 hitters, but not over a 22 year or 19 year baseball career, however long Tony played. And you could say, like, again, even if the talent around him was mediocre, that man in the middle of that lineup was he was the propeller on the boat, and he was wowing people, and he stayed true to his organization and was like, oh, no, I'm not going to take money to go anywhere else. We're still building something here in San Diego, and so on and so forth. So Tony
internet Gwynn. The internet is filled with interviews and memes about like just how ridiculously good of a hitter he was. I think there's like some real crazy stat with like was it he facing Randy Johnson, Greg Maddux, that he had something like he only struck out 3 times against them. Or something ridiculous like or he never had a 2-strike count against this guy, blah blah blah, or and you just hear about all these stories of him. Hey, this guy's gonna start me off with a slider on the outside of it. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna put it right down the left field line, and then the guy on the on deck circle's like, yeah, whatever, Tony. And the guy would throw the exact pitch that he called, and he hit it right where, he was an amazing hitter. Back in the day when me and you would go to Shea Stadium, and my sole purpose was to heckle whoever the closest player was within shouting distance. We did sit in right field in a Met San Diego game, and I never said a word to Tony Gwynn.
Yeah, right.
He only got applause every time he came back, because I was like, no, he's too great of a player. I am not heckling Tony Gwynn.
Yeah.
Everybody else, whether they were good zingers or not, they had to hear him from me, the crap seats out in right field or whatever where we would get for Shea Stadium. Not Mr. Tony Gwynn.
No.
Mr. Padre, never heard the ire of me. So.
No, he was never downwind of your vitriol. So TG certainly makes that list. What say you on your next name on your list? Do you have anybody else for baseball?
Well, I got quite a few.
Okay.
But I mean, the one that the big name I think you have to mention would be Ted Williams.
And that's, again, I think he's beyond Ernie Banks when it comes to the legacy of Major League Baseball, but
I would argue, I would make the argument, and some people, to me, Ted Williams is the greatest ball player ever.
Okay. Well,
look at his numbers, and just think, he missed prime years for World War II
Yeah, yeah.
and for the Korean War.
Mhm.
You take those years and what he was averaging at the time, he's probably close to 700 home runs. I believe he's
You're
at
right.
I believe he's at like 570, somewhere around there. Was robbed. I mean, should have been the MVP. I know Joe DiMaggio had a 56 game hitting streak, but the guy batted 402 and did not win an MVP.
You're right. You're right.
Um,
Yeah. When guys could hit 400, shit.
And you know what? Like there was a bit of a, he maybe wasn't the nicest. You know, there was a little bit of a pompous. He kind of had an attitude. He didn't like
Oh,
talking
yeah.
to the press or whatever.
He's arrogant.
But
yeah.
I tell you what, there are, going down the road of, YouTube and stuff, there are interviews where he's sitting there talking with Tony Gwynn about hitting, or
Mhm.
talking with Wade Boggs and Don Mattingly
Yeah.
when the two of them were like the best hitters in baseball, and him just talking about hit. Like, I can listen to that dude talk about hitting for hours, and
Sure.
it never gets old. And
Yeah.
it's just, like I said, you look at numbers. I playing left field in Boston and in Fenway, really, like, I never really take defense, but to me, that dude, if he doesn't, you take the years that he lost fighting in the war for our country,
Mhm. Yeah.
he's, I would mention him as the best player before Bonds or Hank Aaron or I'd even go before Babe Ruth, which might be sacrilege, but at least if anything, he's probably
if you're
the
looking
greatest
well-rounded
hitter of all time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, well-rounded hitter, guy that could just basically beat you with his bat, and yeah, in a different era than what I always measure, like, okay, I can go back and I could read a book about how great he was, and see some film or just sort of like eyeball the stats and say, like, this is unbelievable. But having watched baseball for 45 years, my collection of notes and guys that I'm thinking of is more people that I had seen a good amount, at least a decent amount of their career. But
Right.
I'm not going to deny that old Ted is in the conversation for the greatest of all time. But also remember, his rumored to be his head is frozen. So if medically, if we can resurrect him and give him some sort of a humanoid body in the future, he can come back and he can. I think he picks up where he left off with the stats, and he could certainly. The brain of Ted Williams could be
Well,
revived.
Well, whatever
so
you
to
do,
speak.
don't put it his head onto the bot. Do not put his head onto the body of Giancarlo Stanton, because he'll never play a game.
That'll be it's
We
basically-
gotta find somebody who's durable, who can play at least 155 games.
yes.
The only modern guy that I saw play that I had was considering or had wrote down was Ichiro.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Just a talented ball player. I mean, just a ridiculous, fielder. Had a great arm.
Yeah.
Knew, I mean, extremely fast down the. He knew how to get on. He knew what his job was. He was a leadoff hitter for many years for those Mariner teams. That's another thing. Think about if you would have kept Griffey,
Yeah.
and A-Rod or whatever, like, and then a few years
And then
later
you brought in
coulda had
Ichiro.
Ichiro,
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
But again, just like my vivid memory of Ichiro is the All-Star game where he slaps the ball off the wall. And I think it was in San Francisco, and he gets the inside the park home run,
Yeah.
and he's just flying. It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know why. I forget who the outfielder was. I don't even know why he was trying to chase. I mean, that dude was flying around the bases. He was athletic. He was technically sound, and just shame. Never landed in the right. Those Mariner teams again went to the playoffs, never won a big one.
Yeah.
He played for the Yankees, same thing. He made playoffs. They didn't win. Unfortunately, just timing and everything. But a Hall of Fame player that never won the big game.
And again, like, I think you hit on it there, like, just talking about, like, even in an All-Star game, like, he's got a way of, like, making himself stand out and hustling far beyond what the average guy would do when they're out in that same situation. So that, yeah, I mean, I think an Ichiro, just the approach of Ichiro, and I think, like, this is the speed is something that doesn't get talked about enough, but just being such a heads up ball player, to be able to, like, hit the ball the opposite way with as much accuracy and as much repetition as he did, like, he's like slap hitter like crazy, because he knew he could get up the line and he was going to beat it out for a single. So when you're not playing the game, you're playing it to get your body on base and see what you're going to be able to do for your team after you get your body on base, right? And but also, like, he was a doubles machine. Like, he was, you mentioned it, he's a tremendous outfielder who had a great arm for a relatively diminutive size when it all boils down to it in comparison to some of the guys of his time. They get more accolades as better arm guys, but, like, holy shit, like, yeah, I mean, Ichiro, I'm glad that he got, a near unanimous nod to the Hall of Fame, because I think, that's the type of guy that, like, more people should be talking about in this day and age, as, like, he was the quintessential hitter of the 2000s and the 2010s, like, hard to argue. Find me somebody that was more prolific as a guy who could get on base and could make things happen for his team. Even in an unselfish way, when baseball became so selfish, Ichiro was a number one boy. So, yeah, like, he's in that talk. Roy Halladay was a guy that's on my list as well. That he threw a no-hitter, threw a perfect game in the playoffs, right? And was that the playoffs of the World Series?
Playoffs, but I don't know. Was it a perfect game or no hitter?
Maybe it was a no-hitter.
Hey,
still,
Hall of Fame pitcher, not a really good pilot.
But I'd still, come on now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, because you said it before.
If there's a Hall of Fame of bad pilots, it's Thurman Munson, Roy Halladay. They're all in it.
Is Jim Leyritz in that one too? Is it Leyritz?
Oh no, he's still alive, unfortunately.
No, who was the other Yankee that bashed up his plane?
Oh, it was Corey Lytle.
Corey Lytle, yes. Yeah. But no, Roy Halladay just gets my nod, because you're looking at him and you're like, all right, so here's your rotation for, say it's the Blue Jays or say it's the Phillies, and he's the guy you got to face 3 times in that World Series. After he's plowed through your division and your championship series in the National League or the American League, and you're staring down the barrel of a Roy Halladay, such a game pitcher that just never, the stars didn't align, and they were playing better teams, obviously, but not for lack of effort on his end of the bargain. Like, and again, a great regular season pitcher too, and somebody that career cut short. He was
also very, very smart cerebral pitcher. He was one of the guys. I'm trying to think of who the teammate that he had, but how Halladay was smart enough to realize that you were in the era of baseball where pitch counts were a big thing,
mm-hmm.
and I remember him in interviews and telling teammates and stuff like, yeah, if I really want to, I could get it up to 98, 99. But but I'd rather throw 95, 96, be more accurate, throw more
mm-hmm.
strikes.
Yep. full
I'll
more
last
batters.
longer,
Yeah.
and I'll last longer in games
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than go out there, throw it 98, 99, but it's going to go all over the place, and I'm going to pitch 5 innings and then hand the game to a bullpen, and I'm probably going to get an L. Whereas if I just take a little bit off and make sure I make good pitches, and I don't have to strike everybody out, I'll pitch 7 or 8 innings, and you know what? Like my chances of getting W's are going to increase.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was God, he was a Yankee. He always pitched well against the Yankees, whether he was a Blue Jay or a Philly, man.
Yeah.
He just he was he's up there on the Yankee killer list of if I'm making a team that
That kills the
it's
Yankees.
George Brett, Roy Halladay, Junior.
All right,
man.
right.
No matter who was on the team, they couldn't hit him, or they couldn't pitch against. There was always like a list of guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anybody else that you want to highlight before we move to another major sport?
Well, I'm sure somebody is going to ask me. It's called the Captain and Madden Show. My favorite ball player growing up was Don Mattingly.
Oh, yes. Oh, I forgot that you didn't win a championship. Oh.
But it runs into one of those things where, in my mind, as much as I love Donnie baseball, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
I think the Hall of Fame should be guys that you say their name, boom, they're in it. If you say somebody's name and you go, well, I got to look up the stats, and then he's not a Hall of Famer.
Okay. All right.
Obviously, when you're throwing guys like Burt Blyleven and Harold Baines and some other these clowns into the Hall of Fame, that makes the argument that, well, if that guy's in, then Donnie should have been in because there was a 6-year period where he was literally the best hitter in baseball and maybe the best player in baseball if you count his defense at first base.
Right.
But if we're talking about, Hall of Fame players who never made it to a championship, he falls a little short.
Of course. Yeah.
But still was my favorite, was my favorite player growing up. I was actually in the stadium, game 2 against Seattle when he hit a home run. Thought the stadium was going to crumble to the ground because the upper deck was shaking so much.
Right.
It was probably one of the coolest sports moments that I ever got to witness live. But, I'm fine with him being in the Yankee, Monument Park and forever a Yankee and all that stuff. But I'm sure if I didn't mention it, somebody would be like, "Can't believe you didn't mention Don Mattingly."
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, if left out, he would be. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that come at us and say like, "You forgot about this guy. You forgot about that guy." Hey, listen, this isn't a perfect science, everyone. You can mention guys all day and all night. Juan Samuel never won a championship. I still remember his name. Oh, he's not that great, but I still remember his name. He didn't win a championship, but
how could you not mention Boomer Esiason?
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. We're not on his show. So yeah, I mean that's a good one to sentimental favorite to include on the list for sure. He meant a lot to you and your enjoyment of baseball. Let's go to hoops and let's talk a little bit about some of the guys that were important in the NBA that never got to hold the is it the Naismith Trophy? Do they call it that still, or is it something else? Or whatever the trophy's name is, but this is a basketball section. We've got a couple names to kind of throw in the ring for this one. Charles Barkley is like, you Google like athletes that are great at their sport that did not win the championship. But I think Charles Barkley would come up more times than not, and he would probably tell you himself that in his time he just couldn't carry a team deep enough into the playoffs or finish the job in a championship. despite being there a few times. So, would you say yay or nay on
Oh,
Sir
definitely. I mean,
Charles?
I'm sure when we get through our list of players or guys that I would think of mentioning, one name would have to pop up, and that would be Michael Jordan. Is the reason why Charles Barkley
Yeah.
he's in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He gets traded to Phoenix. He makes it to a finals, and then he has to face Michael Jordan.
The Jordan Buzzsaw. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you had that 6 years in a row where the Bulls won. But yeah, Barkley was a really, he's kind of become a character of
Yeah.
himself, like in retirement. I mean, kudos to him. He does the TNT NBA gig, and it is very entertaining. Like him, Ernie Johnson, and Kevin,
Yeah.
and they're always kind of taking shots at him, and he's unfortunately put on a lot of weight since he played, but he was a guy that he was like 6'5". He wasn't, he had a really good college career, but was not a guy that everyone was like, oh, this dude's going to be
Yeah, he wasn't a
an
surefire.
all-star.
Yeah.
But he worked his ass off, and it's always very it's always interesting to see pictures of him like his first couple of years in Philly, where he's a little bit slender, and it's kind of interesting. They called him the round mound of rebound, and it was like, oh yeah, you think he's around there? You should see him in a wait
Jump
till
in a
he
time
gets to-
machine.
Wait till he
98.
gets on the Houston Rockets, man. But
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
just he was a talented dude. Don't know how well he would translate nowadays with everybody hoisting up threes. He wasn't like the greatest outside shooter, but he could defend. He was great rebounder. Was really good around the basket, and
Yeah.
I mean, obviously a Hall of Fame basketball player, but just like a number of guys who during that span, it was just the Bulls and Michael Jordan were just a buzzsaw, and kept a lot of guys from either advancing in the playoffs or winning a title.
Yeah, that's true. But I think, the other thing that helps him is that, after retirement, he became that personality, and he never separated himself from the game of basketball. He was always tied to basketball. So he's a great ambassador for the sport of basketball. I think.
The thing is that when he does, on occasion, like whether he's doing an interview or he's on the TNT show, like him ripping into a guy is like, it's not like Skip Bayless ripping into Charles has done it.
He's been there.
He knows
Yeah.
what it takes.
Yeah.
So his criticism or his superlative, when he's praising somebody or when he's critiquing them, always has a little bit more weight
There
with
you
it
go,
because
right?
because the dude did it, and he was he was a Hall of Fame basketball player.
Yeah.
Where a lot of sports you get some of these guys that were, hey, they had a moment in the sun or whatever. Charles can walk it. He could talk because he walked it.
Yeah, that's certainly a testament to him. On your list, basketball. Go ahead, give me another name.
Well, I put these two guys together. They're both Hall of Fame players. They both played on the same team. And again, we're another victims of the Michael Jordan Chicago buzzsaw, and that's John Stockton, Karl Malone.
Karl Malone. Yeah.
Stockton Malone. I mean, they ran the pick and roll for, 10, 15 years?
I was going to say more than a decade. Yeah.
Everyone knew it was coming, but nobody still could somehow figure out a way to defend it. Those Utah Jazz teams were really good. I mean, either sometimes they fell victim to, the Seattle team that was, that had a couple good, or I don't know how well the Lakers. I mean, eventually towards the end, Kobe and Shaq, but Stockton and Malone were kind of done by then. But
Well,
But yeah,
Houston was big. If you're talking about, 94,
yeah, the
95,
Elijah
Houston.
1 year, yeah, the
Yeah.
Elijah. But yeah, I mean, they were two Hall of Fame basketball players, and um, just seemed to, luck wasn't really on their side. They always either, even when they did come out of the West, they had to face Jordan.
There was Jordan and Pippen and the rest of the cast of characters that
and
were
and them boys.
yeah,
as they like to
right.
say.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think like if you go back and you look at guys that sort of like went hand in hand in that league, like tell me a tandem. Somebody's always going to say Jordan and Pippen. That's right off the top of your head. Yeah, but I think the next duo of names is going to be Stockton and Malone. Like they're synonymous with the success that they had, and and again, guys that started on their team right around the same time. So it's not like you have a veteran that was there for 10 years ahead of time that like just got this this new rookie to play with. They basically came up in the league together. So yeah, I mean they're always going to be synonymous. Malone a little bit more notoriety because he was more personality, but I still think Stockton was a pivotal guy and one of the one of the better shooting point guards that the NBA had in that time frame. But if we're gonna if we're gonna talk about guys that were perennial playoff opponents of Michael Jordan, you have Reggie Miller to talk about, and certainly a guy that was a team carrier and a pest come playoff, like a regular season player, without question. But like when the heyday of the NBA in the 90s was when everybody made the postseason, and Reggie Miller was a sniper in the postseason. He still gets, he comes back to do commentary. He still gets booed in the Garden. They still hate his guts. New York fans, they had that nice little run last year where they did play the Pacers in the playoffs, and all of those old rivalry, feelings came back. And Reggie Miller his name was on everybody's lips. Like, oh, remember the days of Miller versus Ewing and John Starks and these teams. So I think Reggie certainly is in that conversation for outstanding or great players, all time players that never put it together. I don't think did Reggie ever even make it to an NBA championship?
Yeah, I think the Pacers. Who did they lose to? They did make the finals the one year, and they lost. And I'm trying to remember who they lost to.
Maybe it was one of the Jordan retirement years.
Yeah, I think they might have. Did they lose one year to Houston?
That could be.
Because I think
Yeah.
the year that the infamous Spike Lee game, where he basically hits a three, steals the ball, hits another three, and then they win the game in overtime. And the whole time, he's basically giving the choke sign to Spike Lee and all that. I think that year they did make it. They advanced, and they might have lost to Houston. But yeah, he was. People kind of forget there was. There were guys that were like 3-point specialists, but they weren't really that good at basketball. They would get put into the game. We're down by 15 or whatever. We'll put this dude in and see if we can get back quickly. Reggie was like one of the first that that was like he was a sniper from three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would have totally destroyed in this era where no one plays defense and everyone's just chucking up threes.
Yeah.
Reggie
yeah.
would have been averaging 30 points a game.
Oh, he would have been everybody's favorite player. Yeah.
But he was really the first that was kind of like, he wasn't the greatest defender, but he wasn't as much of like, you think of some of the guys in the 80s, whatever, that used to compete in the 3-point contest, they were kind of liabilities if you put them out there. Like Reggie wasn't a liability. Like he
True.
played enough defense to compete in that era. He was a good enough passer. He wasn't just, he would come off screen. I mean, he worked his ass off. He he didn't just sit there in the corner and wait for, he was he was cutting through. He was getting around screens and but yeah, like complete player. But again, like it'd be amazing to see what he would have done playing nowadays.
Yeah, everybody in the league would have hated him.
But
Swagger.
honestly enough, not the best basketball player in his own family.
By the way, I did look it up. They did go to the championship in 2000, and they lost to the Lakers in 2000. That Houston Rockets team, they did win 2 championships in the 90s, beating the Knicks and also beating the Orlando Magic in the down period before.
I know
it was
one
Jordan
of them
Ball
was
again.
the Knicks.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had. I mean, the Pacers had some good team. They had those, the early year, like they had Mark Jackson. They have the
Run
Rick
TMC.
Smiths.
No,
That was-
I'm
no,
sorry.
that-
That was Golden State.
That was Golden State.
Sorry.
But then they had, they were a legitimate playoff team and good team, like for a majority of the years that Reggie was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Some cast members kind of came and went, but yeah, Reggie should have at least got one.
Reg was a central point. Anybody else that you got that you can think of?
This guy didn't win a championship, and you know what? I'm glad he didn't win a championship.
Oh, no.
Because if there's nothing that in basketball that I hated more than the Lakers, was the fucking '90s Knicks. I couldn't fucking stand them.
Oh, now you're
They
gonna
played-
shit on John Starks.
No. Yeah. Nothing was worse than sitting there and having somebody who is a Knicks fan legitimately try to telling you that John Starks was just as good as Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Or that Anthony Mason was like the best forward in all of basketball.
Fun players, not all time players.
They were thugs, man. They played that I couldn't stand, like they would win games like 84-79. They were the most boring style, but I couldn't believe that they were coached by Riley, because he was, Showtime Lakers and it was just like street thug friggin' mugging on defense. I couldn't believe that was the style of play that they played on the Riley. But yeah, I would have to mention Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
He was a Hall
Yeah.
of Fame player, but man, I couldn't stand the '90s Knicks. I was so happy every time they like Charles Smith, like under the basket, can't put a layup. He's 6'9", 6'10", just can't get up and just dunk the ball. Starks going, clanking it, building, so many bricks in Houston that they could build a shelter for the homeless. All of that just made me smile every time the Knicks, got to a certain point and could not. The only Knicks team that I actually kind of sort of enjoyed was a couple of years later when they had LJ and they lost in the finals to San Antonio, but Ewing got hurt and didn't play in the finals.
Oh,
But
right.
They still
Yeah.
went on a run. That team was kind of enjoyable to watch.
Scrappy. They were a little scrappy.
But oh yeah, the Riley, like the Riley into Van Gundy, like I couldn't stand those names. But
Ewing still
Patrick-
gets credit.
Patrick gets he gets credit, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And
He's
in my mind, I'm glad he just didn't get a ring.
He's another one that came out of college, and like he had all the hype in the world, number one pick and everything. Like, and I think they were like, it was a big man's game at the beginning, and it was starting to branch out, but like he was still in that era when he came along where the big man was celebrated. Whether it's Kareem was still active, but he was passing the torch to guys like Olajuwon and you needed a
David
big man.
Robinson.
Yeah, exactly. David Robinson. Like, and you needed a big man to be sort of the anchor under the boards, to be physical, to get your rebounds, to feed your flashy players, and move things along. And Ewing did that, as a guy in Georgetown, and like he brought that, not a prima donna style at all. I think he was very much a team player, and I think that's what. That's what kept that Knick team relevant in the early part of the 90s, into even the late part of the 90s when he's, when his knees weren't as together and he was, very much like, falling apart. He was the guy to look for when he was in that game. Like, he was going to do something interesting and outstanding. He's my brother's favorite basketball player of all time because he was he got into the Big East watching Georgetown on TV and their, championship run, winning a national championship with Ewing as a center. And then he got drafted to the Knicks, and my brother was a Knicks fan. So it was like, I always look for somebody to root, just like you, like, just sort of like, all right, well, begrudgingly, I have to give Patrick Ewing credit, but I really want somebody to knock him out. Yeah. And I never got that because I never really had an NBA team, but
there was some critique towards, after so many years in the league, that he kind of fell in love with he was a decent, like, he wasn't just like a guy that had he didn't always have to be underneath the basket to score. He had a decent jump shot from, 15 feet out or whatever. And there was always a lot of critique that he kind of fell in love with that. Yeah. And he moved away from the basket, and people were, that there were times where, Olajuwon outplayed him. He wasn't, he didn't have some, when he did go up against early Shaq, Robinson, Olajuwon, some of the really good centers, he didn't have the best games. Even, later when Mutombo kind of came into the league. And that he kind of shied away from the contact underneath the basket, and he kind of fell in love with the jumper. But again, he was still, a Hall of Fame, probably, in my lifetime, probably the best Knick player.
Yeah, hard to argue.
And definite Hall of Famer, and just, man, sadly, just didn't win a ring.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're.
He should just do like everyone else did and went to L.A. and
listen. If put him in a time machine and put him in this modern era, he would have played for 3 teams before his 4th season in the league, and not because he's bad, just because they're commodities now. I think that kind of wraps it up. I don't have any other notes on basketball. Do you have anybody else that's
There's mentions of, I never got to see him play, but it was odd that Elgin Baylor played for the Lakers for all those years when they had really good teams in the 70s, and he never won a championship. But, again, it's one of those things where you have to take people's word for it, because I didn't get to see Elgin Baylor play, but he's in the Hall of Fame.
That's
played
for sure.
He played for some really good Lakers teams that, sadly kept on losing to the Celtics or the Knicks.
Yeah. Very good. All right, last major sport that we're going to touch upon, and again, this isn't deep because we're not really,
NASCAR. Are we talking about NASCAR?
No, we're not talking about NASCAR. We're talking about the National Hockey League, Lord Stanley's Cup, the best trophy in all of sports, by the way. Come at me if you don't like the Stanley Cup. Beautiful, beautiful piece of art.
I would say it's either that or the Lombardi Trophy.
Okay, Lombardi Trophy's okay. It's good for second place. Stanley Cups.
If I had the choice, I would like to hoist up a Stanley Cup.
Of course,
cool.
Yeah. So for NHL guys, like, I'll let you kick this off. Anybody that bubbles to the top of your dome for NHL guys that never won a title?
This one really hits me in the heart because if anyone knows me, there's nothing more than I love than the New York Rangers.
No, that's not true.
That is not true.
You can't start a
but-
relationship with this podcasting audience and pretend that you're a Rangers fan. Do
Yeah,
not do
believe
that
me,
to
I'm
them.
not pretending. You know why? Well, the player would be Henrik Lundqvist,
Yes.
goalie for
Yeah.
the Rangers.
Hank.
Can't go out with can't go over to his house and have a drink, because there's no
No
cups.
cups. See,
No cups. But no, a great goaltender. Played for both the Rangers and the Sweden national team. Probably, I don't even think it's arguably. I mean, during his heyday, was probably the best goalie in the league.
lights
I
out.
believe
Yeah.
he dragged to, I believe, twice. He took them to the Cup Finals. I know one year they lost to the Kings,
Kings and
but and I think there was another run, right? They lost,
he might have only been.
or was it just? I know that year the Kings were really good, and That was Quick's like best year in the league, and it wasn't like Lundqvist got to the finals and they put up 7-8 goals. Like, they lost games 2-1 and shit like that. So he was a really good goaltender. I have to say, even though he's a Ranger, like, dude's a classy guy.
Oh
like-
yeah, yeah.
Always like
Charitable.
charitable, good with fans. You never hear anybody say like, "Oh yeah, I met Lundqvist and was a complete dick." Like, he's just, everything you ever hear about him is that he's a great guy. It's a shame he had to play for a crappy organization like the Rangers,
All
but
right. I mean, take your shots as
come
much as
on.
you want to downplay the prolific New York Rangers. In his time, though, he was the king of all of that, and like the most important guy on in your lineup. And if you made it to the playoffs, you wanted. That was the peace of mind. Like, yeah, you're gonna have Hank, in the goal. I know at least I've got a fighting chance to make it through and to win a couple games and march forward. It's just, again, it kind of like, it sucks that if he was a little bit more, I guess, what's the word I'm thinking of? Advantageous. He might have said like, all right, it's time to go to, greener pastures and go play for somebody else. But, I think his heart was New York. I think he ended up being a very good, calming force when it came to, New York sports in general. Relished in having somebody like Lundqvist, because he could go out there, he could represent the team, he could represent the league, do the charity stuff, and ultimately, like, become a in his retirement, a good spokesman for not only the Rangers but also hockey in general and international hockey as well. Like you mentioned, playing for Sweden and leading them in international play. Only one Stanley Cup finals appearance, though.
Not only a Hall of Fame goalie, but a Hall of Fame dresser. He's
a handsome man. He could be a model.
unlike Ron Duguay. I don't know what the hell.
Ron
who
Duguay,
dresses that
very
dude.
flashy dresser. He was very flashy
Yeah.
dresser. But he's for a different time. But no, I think you're right to mention Hank, even though like it does sting a little bit. There was another, again, like I think hockey's different, and I didn't want to list a whole bunch of hockey guys and not necessarily like kind of like tiptoe you through their careers. But I will say for his time, one of the benchmark guys in 90s hockey around all the NHL was Eric Lindros. And he would certainly, he's worth merit. An incredibly impactful player the second that he got into the league. Huge body, like a big, physical, imposing guy that could outskate you, control the puck, control a game, take over a game whenever he needed to. Had some really terrific seasons in Philadelphia, league MVP and whatnot. Went to the Cup Finals one time as well. I believe '97, and had Philadelphia had only lost one game per round leading up to the Stanley Cup Finals, and just couldn't they couldn't put the game together. And again, I think that was sort of like for a flash of a career, because he came into the league in 1990. So by the time you get to 97, and then even beyond then, the physical toll that he put into the front end of his career really started to show in the concussions. And a guy that, like, you talk about, like, for the betterment of his well-being in his future life, he had to walk away from the game, as we mentioned before, like very much like a guy that left it out there on the ice. Imagine if he had protected himself a little bit better. And if he had said,
I think Scott Stevens and Ken Danico had a little bit to do with
they
that.
concertoed him. I'm not gonna, again, I wasn't gonna hold anybody's feet to the fire, but I'm just gonna say that that he still gave 110% every time that he walked out there. So he's a testament to old style hard-nosed hockey. It just takes your toll and it cuts your career short. And he probably could have played, we're not saying like another 20 years, but, maybe another 5-7 years if he was, a little bit more, I guess, conservative with his,
yes,
with his body.
In the modern, I guess, times of sports, maybe only second to LeBron, as in hype of him coming into the league.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
People were talking about Eric Lindros for 2 years before he was eligible to be drafted. I remember vividly everyone trying to get the score hockey card of Eric Lindros.
I have 3 of them.
I know at least I have one. And all of the business with, he was drafted by the Quebec Nordiques. He did not want to play for a Canadian team. He got, was a big messy kind of situation where eventually they bowed down. They drafted him, but then they ended up trading him to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Little known fact, I got free tickets for a preseason hockey game. And I got to see Eric Lindros dressed in a Philadelphia Flyer for the first time.
Really?
It was his first ever, even though it was a preseason game. And I was like, that guy is giant.
Yeah.
He's a giant. How the hell does he move? Because he's, without the skates, he's 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
You add the skates, he just...
It's about 5 inches,
and
4 or 5
big,
inches.
And
yeah.
It was just like you were just almost to the point where I think he might be too big. I don't know if he's gonna, but he was smooth.
Mm-hmm.
He unfortunately, got into a situation where his health didn't, he didn't allow him to kind of shorten his career, or at least the effectiveness of him, especially for the last couple of years. But yeah, Dude, I just remember everybody talking about Eric Lindros, and people I think people were tanking to try to get the first round pick, and he was the hype. There was a lot of hype around him. Some will say that he never lived up to it, but I think the health and the concussions had a lot to do with it.
That's for sure. That's again that basically, if you nowadays, if you bring him up, it's like, man, that would have been a great career, but dude got his bell rung too many times, and maybe would have been a little bit better protected in this time frame. They would have diagnosed and they would have said no, you're sitting out for a half a season because we can't risk your welfare. So take that rest. But certainly impactful and a great player. Anybody else on your hockey list that you want to shout out?
Yes, I would like to shout out former Islander great Pat LaFontaine.
Pat LaFontaine.
And mainly because one of my favorite hockey movies is Youngblood,
Okay, right.
and Pat LaFontaine looked like Dean Youngblood in real life, facial wise, and he was a hell of he was a hell of a player. Had really good runs with the Islanders and Buffalo.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, just Islander. He kind of came in after. I think the whole idea was like those guys that won, the 4 cups in a row. The Mike Bossy,
And the Brian Smiths.
Potvin.
Yeah.
It was supposed to kind of be like, okay, we're gonna pass the baton to you. You're gonna be the next great Islander, and he was a really good player. It just they made the playoffs, but they just never continued the success that those guys did.
Who was the other guy that the big hype was behind? Benoit Hogue too.
Yeah,
The Islanders were like,
Pierre-
this is it. We're Pierre
Pierre
Turgeon.
Turgeon for a little while. They had some good. I mean, they made sort of deep runs in the playoffs.
They did. Yeah.
But fortunately for old Pat, never paid off, and it's a shame. I think because he kind of played. He was always playing in that, especially when he was with the Islanders, like always playing in that shadow of those great Islander teams of like the late 70s, early 80s before he got there. That I don't think he was really as appreciated as for what he did, for his play than it was. I'm sure true Islander fans or people that were actually going to that horrible Nassau Coliseum back in the 80s probably did enjoy it, but the people that that write about it and stuff or whatever, they never really gave him his credit.
Yeah. He had, Islanders, Sabres, and then a season with the New York Rangers as well.
Really?
97. So, yeah, he was with the Sabres from 91 to 97, and then a Ranger for
I think he was another.
one or
I
two
think he was
seasons.
another
Another
guy that
concussion.
had-
Yeah, just concussions. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, gave back to the sport afterwards, and was an executive with the Sabres, and I think that's really where we might remember him because he was native, or playing, not native, but like playing in the New York tri-state area. So the name is synonymous with like early fandom of hockey, but I think he at least it seems like from everything that you've read about him that he is really tied to the Buffalo Sabres part of his career. So it's he's a good nomination for a certainly an underrated player, and a guy that deserves a lot more credit for the time that he played, and for being like a central figure in the league at that time. So that's an excellent guy to throw in there. I mean, I do just want to, Pavel Bure is another guy. I think the Vancouver Canucks, like, people kind of forget how good the Canucks were.
Wasn't he the Russian Rocket?
He was the Russian Rocket, yeah. And when you're kind of like one step below Mario Lemieux when it comes to like prolific goal scorers over like a 3-year period, I think you're gonna certainly deserve your flowers, and Bure is one of those guys that, like, he ended up bouncing around a lot, but like he basically like took Vancouver on his shoulders as Gretzky had done like a decade before, and made them relevant in the early 90s, and and again, like was a tough skater to stop, and a tough guy to game plan against, because you knew he was always, even if you stymied him in the first period, he's gonna get his act together, and he's gonna murder you in the third period. It really counts. So always a gamer, always a guy that gave 110%, a Hall of Famer, and certainly worth tape, go back and check some of that stuff out on the NHL website and on YouTube. So that might wrap up the hockey guys.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody?
Hockey's a weird thing where it was kind of almost okay for guys to eventually, you think Ray Bourque, like everyone was like, all right, you can't win in Boston, so please, while you still can, go somewhere. He goes to Colorado and wins, and it was
Right.
like nobody gave him like. It seemed like it was okay. Where I feel like in other sports when guys do that, where they leave somewhere where they were there for a long time just to kind of chase that, the ring or something, where people are like, oh, you should win it where wherever.
Where you began your career, yeah.
Nobody really got on Chelios's case for leaving. Guys have left teams to kind of go somewhere to win the cup or something like that, and it's not really. I always kind of feel like, not that they get a pass, but nobody ever really gives them a hard time for doing things like that.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that could be said. All right, so that's a nice bow to put on this athletes, the non-title athletes, the guys that have Hall of Fame careers, and or Hall of Fame caliber careers that never got it into the trophy case for the league trophy.
Congratulations, you're the best loser.
yeah, you're the top guy that's not a top guy. I don't know. I think we're gonna disappoint our fan base. You know what? I'm gonna call it right now. The next episode that we are going to cover, I think we'll go back to movies for our next episode, and let's talk about biopics. Biopics. We're gonna go over the best and the worst of biopics. And
hey, real quick shout out.
Yes.
Passing of Gene Hackman. I'm not going to wait that long.
That's true. Yeah. It is a week after in the real world, but yeah, Gene Hackman unfortunately left us.
One of my favorite actors of all time, and
Mentioned,
I can't say it's sad that a 96-year-old passed away, but
right.
Hell of an actor. Always looked like he was 6, even when he was in his 40s. Looked like he was 65.
Yeah.
Can never figure that out.
He was mentioned on a prior episode. He was in the bad guy episode. We talked about a good Lex Luthor.
Really good in The Unforgiven.
Yes. So rest in power, Gene Hackman. But yeah, we'll go to biopics for our next episode. And while
like Biodome or
no.
Like, does it have to be biology?
It's not biology. No. It's
okay.
biographical pictures.
Oh.
Pictures of a biographical nature, meaning that they're about a real person, place, or thing.
I'm going to have to change my list then.
If you've written your list before I even told you what the topic is, you're in.
I just always have that list just on hand, just in case.
It's in the chamber.
My favorite movies about biology or biochemistry. I have it. It's laminated.
That's great.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. Just fire away. So yeah, look forward to that. In the meantime, go back and check the episodes out from the archives. Feel free to maybe listen to some of the other shows on the Off the Cuff Stuff Network. If you're so inclined to go check a Dropkick Basement out. There's a couple episodes and a more recent episode that's floating out there in the ether. So I hope everybody enjoys their time. Captain, as always, a pleasure speaking with you about sports and the past in general. So
all of it was on this end. The enjoyment of talking to you on this side.
Well,
always.
Thank you. So yeah, we'll hang out with you guys for our next episode, and until then, just make sure that your bat's not corked.